Since childhood, Amara James has dreamed of a Porsche 911 Turbo S. Her fascination with this car began when she saw it on the cover of a magazine she happened to have. For Amara, Porsche was not just a car, it was a symbol of freedom, power, and excellence that she wanted to achieve in her life. As a teenager, Amara spent hours looking at pictures of Porsches in magazines and on websites, admiring its design and performance. She even created a dream board with a picture of a snow-white Porsche 911 Turbo S as the centerpiece. Her friends often laughed at her obsession, but Amara knew that this dream was not just a fantasy, but a goal she would pursue. Amara grew up in a small town where opportunities were limited, but her ambition knew no bounds. She worked after school, helping out at a local cafe, and saved every dollar she earned in a special piggy bank. Her parents, though not always understanding her dream, supported her aspirations, reminding her that perseverance and hard work can overcome any obstacles. When Amara entered university, her life became even more intense. She studied during the day and worked as a waitress in the evening, sometimes taking extra shifts to earn more money. She gave up entertainment and new things, reminding herself that every penny she saved brought her closer to her dream. Her friends marveled at her discipline, but for Amara it came naturally. She knew what she was working for. After graduation, Amara began a career in finance. Her perseverance and talent quickly brought her success. She worked overtime, studied the markets, invested her savings, and was always looking for new opportunities for growth. Her journey was not easy, but she never gave up. 10 years after she first saw a Porsche on the cover of a magazine, Amara realized that her dream was within reach. She opened her bank account and saw that she had saved enough money to buy the car. Her heart was filled with pride and triumph. She knew that this moment was the result of her perseverance, self-discipline, and belief in herself. When Amara arrived at the prestigious Porsche dealership in the city center, she was struck by the grandeur and elegance of the building. The glass facades of the showroom glistened in the sunlight, reminding her of an unattainable level of status and perfection. The parking lot was lined with expensive cars. Each of them gave off an aura of wealth and success, and Amara could already imagine in her mind how her snow-white Porsche 911 Turbo S would one day be part of this picture. She took a deep breath, setting herself up for the moment she had been waiting for. Her modest outfit, jeans, a white shirt, and minimal accessories, contrasted with the glamorous atmosphere of the showroom. But Amara knew that her self-confidence and perseverance were more important than any outward signs. She headed for the showroom doors, which opened automatically, as if inviting her into a world of luxury. Inside the showroom, everything was decorated with the utmost attention to detail. Spacious rooms with smooth surfaces, a restrained color palette, and the art of lighting that perfectly emphasized every detail of the cars. In the center of the showroom was a snow-white Porsche 911 Turbo S. Perfect in every curve, it was the perfect embodiment of Amara's dream. Her heart beat faster as she stepped closer to it. The showroom staff were dressed in stylish suits. Their movements were graceful, and their smiles were polite but cold. They were clearly targeting elite clients who could easily afford these luxury cars. Amara could feel their appraising gazes on her. They were not friendly, but cold and a bit arrogant. The two salesmen at the reception broke off their conversation when Amara walked in. Their eyes quickly focused on her, and one of them leaned over to the other and whispered something. This brought a restrained smile to their faces, not a friendly one, but one that clearly indicated their prejudice. The salon manager, a tall man in an immaculate suit, stood at the counter, watching Amara. His gaze was cold and judgmental, as if he was trying to figure out if she met the standards of the clients of this upscale place. He didn't greet her, didn't make any gesture that could give the impression of a warm welcome. His behavior was reminiscent of a security guard at a prestigious club deciding whether a customer deserves to enter. Amara gathered all her inner confidence to ignore these stares and coldness. She walked up to the snow-white Porsche 911 Turbo S, feeling like her dream was finally coming true. She gently opened the door and touched the leather interior. This moment was supposed to be special, but the tense atmosphere of the cabin was felt even here. Just then, the salesman approached her, a young man with a strained smile that looked more like professional politeness than sincerity. "I'm sorry, sir, but this car is already reserved." Amara looked up and looked directly at the salesman. His voice was cold and reserved, but there was a distinct note of distrust in it. This was the moment she realized that despite her efforts and achievements, she still faced prejudice that could not be hidden behind formal. Amara James took a few deep breaths before crossing the threshold of the prestigious Porsche dealership. It was supposed to be a day of triumph, a day when her years of hard work and discipline would finally bring the long-awaited result. But from the very first moment inside, she felt that the atmosphere had changed, not because of her actions, but because of the way people looked at her. The showcase of luxury, which was supposed to be a place of joy, began to turn into a challenge. As soon as she crossed the threshold, Amara caught the eyes of two salespeople at the reception desk. Their conversation suddenly stopped and they focused on her. One of them leaned over to the other, whispered something, and a restrained, subtle smile appeared on both of their faces. It was not a warm smile, but rather one that conveyed distrust and even contempt. The feeling of awkwardness grew. The look of the salon manager became noticeably heavy. He stood in the far corner, a tall and confident man in an expensive suit. His eyes, cold and emotionless, followed Amara from the moment she arrived. It wasn't a friendly look, but a look of assessment, like a scanner analyzing every detail of her appearance, including her modest outfit. Jeans, white shirt, minimal accessories. His eyes held a tacit confidence that she was not one of their typical clients. Despite these reactions, Amara moved forward. Her inner voice reminded her that she had come a long way to get here and should not let others take away this moment. She walked confidently toward the snow-white Porsche 911 Turbo S in the center of the room. Her heart was racing as she stood next to the car that represented everything she had built over the past 10 years. Mara carefully opened the door and got into the driver's seat. The leather seat was extremely comfortable, and the interior exuded elegance and premium. She placed her hands on the steering wheel, feeling the texture and quality of the material she had come to expect. But even at this moment, she could feel people looking at her behind her, back not with curiosity or admiration, but with skepticism. This feeling of awkwardness reached its climax when a young salesman approached her. His smile was polite but strained. His eyes showed a hint of distrust, although he tried to maintain a formal professionalism. "I'm sorry, sir, but this car is already reserved," he said in a flat tone. Amara looked up and looked directly at him. His words were polite, but their implication was clear. "You don't belong here." She remained restrained and asked, "Oh, then can I see another model?" The salesman hesitated. His hesitation was brief, but very telling. He didn't know how to answer, and his eyes darted to the manager who was already approaching them. The atmosphere became even more tense. Amara could feel that everyone in the salon was now looking at her, even the employees who had been minding their own business. The manager walked closer with a confident step. His tone was calm, and his words were carefully chosen to sound neutral, but they had a hint of arrogance in them. "Perhaps you should check out the more affordable models. We have great deals on a Cayenne or Macan." These words sounded like a friendly suggestion, but to Amara they were humiliating. It was clear to her that the manager doubted her financial ability to buy a Porsche 911 Turbo S. It wasn't just disrespectful, it was a display of prejudice that made her feel cold. Several employees nearby were clearly watching the situation. Some were holding back smiles, and one of them even exchanged a brief glance with a colleague who seemed to find the scene interesting. For Amara, this was not the first time she had been judged on her appearance rather than her achievements or abilities. But this time it hurt more because it was a day she had imagined as triumphant, but which had now turned into humiliation. She took a deep breath and, against all odds, decided to remain composed. Mara knew that it was useless to prove anything to these people, but she also knew that she would not allow them to devalue her dream. Amara remained composed despite all the negativity she had felt since entering the car dealership. She tried to convince herself that these people and their attitudes did not matter. But the cold atmosphere, prejudice, and outright humiliation were impossible to ignore. When the manager ordered the guards to escort her out of the room, it was her boiling point. The guards who approached her were reserved yet confident. They tried to appear polite, but their behavior clearly demonstrated that they were following an order that was perceived as completely normal in this salon. One of them spoke in a cold and even voice. "We ask you to leave the premises. Miss, you are creating an inconvenience for the other customers." These words sounded as if Amara had just done something unacceptable. She looked at the security guard's face and then turned her attention to the manager. He stood by, watching the situation, showing no regret or remorse. It wasn't just a lack of courtesy, It was an open signal that she was not welcome here and that they didn't see her as a real customer. Amara knew it was useless to argue. She could challenge them, point out their behavior, but she knew inside that it wouldn't change their attitude. She took a deep breath and decided to keep her head up. She was being humiliated in this car dealership, but she would not let it break her spirit. She got out of the car, straightened up, looked directly at the manager and, keeping her composure, said, "Your behavior will cost you the deal, and possibly your reputation. I will buy this car elsewhere where I will be respected as a customer." The manager smiled slightly but said nothing. Amara realized that his confidence was based on the belief that her words would not have any consequences. This only added to her motivation. Several employees of the car dealership smiled openly as they watched her leave. Their behavior was ridiculous and rude, but she refused to let their actions destroy her dream. She made her way to the exit, holding her head high despite the pressure she felt. As she neared the door, she stopped and turned to take a photo of the car dealership building. It was not an act of anger or protest. It was her way of capturing a moment that would remind her that even in the most difficult situations, she remained strong. In the street, she stopped and paused, feeling her emotions building. Her heart was racing, but she knew she needed to remain calm. She got into her car, which had served her well for many years, and drove away. Her mind was not on the humiliation she had just experienced, but on how she would turn this experience into an opportunity for change. As she drove down the road, Amara allowed herself to finally feel the depth of emotion that built up over the past few hours. She felt anger, sadness, and frustration. But at the same time, she felt proud that she had not let this situation destroy her faith in herself. On the way home, she decided that this incident would not remain just another example of the injustice she had experienced. She knew that every difficulty can become an opportunity if you use it correctly. She decided to tell her story not to complain, but to show others that injustice can be overcome. Her first step was to write down everything that happened and share it with her friends and acquaintances. She wrote a post on social media detailing her experience. She did not mention any specific names, but clearly described the behavior of the staff and security guards at the car dealership, which was intended to humiliate her. Her post quickly gained popularity. People supported her, shared their similar stories, and expressed outrage. This outpouring of support made her realize that her experience was not unique, but it also became a symbol of the struggle for equality and dignity. After her humiliating experience at her first car dealership, Amara James decided that she would not let prejudice destroy her dream. She knew that her desire to buy a Porsche 911 Turbo S was worth another try, so early one morning, with a fresh perspective, she started looking for an alternative option. An internet search led her to another Porsche dealership located in a nearby town. The reviews about this dealership were positive, with people writing about the warm attitude and high level of service. Her expectations were mixed. After what had happened before, she already had doubts about whether it would happen again. But Amara was determined. She went to the dealership feeling both excited and uncertain. On the parking lot in front of the building were brand new Porsches of various models, which were admired for their brilliance and elegance. But the main thing was inside, the place where her dream could finally become a reality. As soon as she crossed the threshold of the new car dealership, she was greeted with a warm smile. A middle-aged salesman with a sincere expression approached her at the entrance. "Good afternoon, miss. How can I help you?" he asked. Amara immediately felt the difference. There was no arrogance or prejudice in his tone, only a sincere desire to help. She told him that she was interested in the Porsche 911 Turbo S, and the salesman offered to take her to the showroom to see it. Her heart was pounding as he led her to a snow-white car in the center of the room. "If you want, we can arrange a test drive," the salesman offered, smiling. Amara felt her doubts gradually disappear. She agreed, and the salesman immediately began to organize all the necessary details. When she got behind the wheel and pushed the start button, her dream finally became a reality. The sound of the engine was music to her ears, and every movement of the car confirmed its perfection. During the test drive, the salesman told her about the technical features of the car, but Amara already knew everything about this model. She had studied it to the smallest detail. Her attention was focused on the feelings the car gave her. It wasn't just a purchase, it was a dream come true. After returning to the car dealership, Amara felt confident. She knew that this car would become her property. The salesman carefully explained every stage of the paperwork. maintaining his sincerity and professionalism. The purchase process took several hours, but Amara enjoyed every minute of it, knowing that she had finally achieved her goal. When the last document was signed, the seller handed her the keys with a smile. Amara felt indescribable joy as she held the keys to her dream car. She left the dealership with a deep sense of satisfaction and pride, not only for her purchase, but also for having overcome all the difficulties on the way to her goal. In the parking lot, she got behind the wheel of her new Porsche 911 Turbo S and started the engine. She looked in the rearview mirror and saw the car dealership behind her, where she was greeted with warmth and respect. It was a new feeling, a feeling of defeating prejudice and realizing her dream. After buying the Porsche 911 Turbo S from the new dealership, Amara felt really satisfied. She had realized her dream, despite all the obstacles, neglect and prejudice she had to. But this situation left a mark in her soul that did not allow her to simply enjoy her success. She knew that what she faced was not just her personal experience. This is a phenomenon that affects many people, and it needs to change. After her post on social media gained popularity, Amara began receiving messages from people from different parts of the country sharing similar stories. Many of them talked about discrimination, neglect or prejudice they had experienced in the service sector. This was the moment when Amara realized that her voice could be part of a larger movement. She decided to create a community initiative aimed at combating bias in customer service. Together with several lawyers and activists, she started working on a project called Dignity in Business. Her goal was not only to draw attention to the problem, but also to propose concrete solutions that would help make the service industry more fair and equal. Amara's initiative quickly gained momentum. People who had experienced similar situations became active participants in the project, sharing their stories and offering ideas. Amara organized meetings where clients could discuss their problems and business representatives could listen to their concerns. She also collaborated with large companies that agreed to implement training programs for their employees aimed at combating prejudice. The Dignity in Business project attracted media attention. Journalists wrote about Amara and her initiative, telling how she turned her personal experience into a platform for change. The interview with her became a real inspiration for many people who had previously been afraid to talk about their problems. One of the key moments was the decision of several large corporations to support the project. They announced the introduction of new service standards that emphasized equal treatment of all clients, regardless of their appearance or social status. It was a significant step forward, showing that change was possible.